put through their paces. Over the past few hours, party supporters have been arriving in their regalia, and they'll have a chance to speak directly to those seeking their vote. More than 1.9 million registered voters in Mpumalanga will be eager to learn what plans competing parties have to solve high unemployment rates and pit latrine realities in many schools across the province. They will address irregular expenditure allegations by the Department of Health in the province to the tune of 6.7 billion rand. Stand by now for eNCA anchor Michelle Craig.
A very good evening to you. It's great to be with you on the 6th eNCA election town hall taking place in Mbombela, Mpumalanga. It's great to be with you this evening. We've got a packed studio audience, or rather an audience here in the auditorium. We're at Mbombela Stadium in Aldrin Sampier. I reckon if we wanted to fill up the stadium, we may well have succeeded.
But this auditorium is still certainly packed to capacity, and I guess there's certainly more people that will be making their way to this town hall debate. Hashtag eNCA town hall debate will certainly be trending in the next few minutes. This is going to be a heated debate that will be taking place. We'll also be taking questions from the floor. And as I said earlier on, Michelle, the interesting bit about this particular stadium is this is where the ANC launched its 2014 election manifesto, when the then president, Jacob Zuma, told the country the ANC has a good story to tell. The party did well, but will they do well this time around? Something that we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. And 12 days to go until the country goes to the polls. Let's get straight to it. We've got 90 minutes, and we all know how quickly 90 minutes goes when you've got so many different issues to discuss. Let me begin by introducing our panel here, starting on my left, to the left of the screens of our viewers, is from Women Forward, Lindiwe Khoza. Sitting to her left as well, and that is from the ANC, Sasekani Manzini, the provincial spokesperson. She is also the health MEC in the province. I was wondering when we were going to hear from our audience here, and there they are. In the middle of the stage there from the EFF is Colin Sedibe. He is the provincial chairperson in the province. Sitting next to him, and she is from the Democratic Alliance, Jane Sithole. She is the provincial leader. She's also the premier candidate for the Democratic Alliance, Jane Sithole. And last but certainly not least, from the Better Residents Association, the BRA, Deputy Secretary, or rather General Secretary, he is Joe Ndlovu. So what we were thinking of doing today, we always start off with opening statements from our political parties. And in our experience, having now done 6 of these, this is the 6th election town hall, what we often find is that political parties rehash what's contained in their manifestos. So we want to shake things up just a little bit, and this will come as a surprise to our panelists here. But what we want to ask you to do, we're going to start here with Women Forward. We're going to ask you to start off by talking about the positive things that the government has done in Mpumalanga. Before you get into the manifesto and the aims of your party in this province and possibly around the country, let's start off with the positives in terms of the governing party. And from the governing party side, what we want to ask you to do is to start off with the challenges in the province, what the governing party hasn't done right. Let's begin now with Women Forward. We've got 1 minute 30 on the clock. That's the clock for the sake of our audience here. That's for the sake of our panelists here. Let's get that started. Your time starts now.
Thank you. What government actually has achieved that I can actually give them a reward for in the province is really in the manner how they have handled the tourism industry within the province. And also, really, I must give to government for passing a legislation that speaks on gender budgeting. And we, as a party, actually believe that that is a step towards the right direction, and we want to capitalize on that, on making sure that there is proper implementation, monitoring, and that actually the government does budget and they actually allocate, we want to make sure that the Minister of Finance sets aside a specific amount that will ensure that GBV in the country and also the empowerment of women gets accelerated.
So you've still got 37 seconds on the clock. You can now talk about your mission statement.
My manifesto.
Your manifesto.
Okay. Where we are now is Women Forward. Our primary and fundamental issue is the empowerment of women, and this is something that no political party actually puts that as a key main issue. We want to accelerate gender equality in the country, and we also want to make sure that political parties and institutions that claim to be representing women, we want to pull them out and say we are a party that is set to actually do that representation.
All right, thanks very much. From Women Forward, Lindiwe Khoza. Let's move straight ahead now. We've got another 90 seconds on the clock. Sasikani, you know the rules for these opening statements. You need to, as the governing party in this province, start off with what the party has done, perhaps not done right, some of the challenges that it's faced, and then you can move into the rest of your opening statement.
As the ANC in Mpumalanga, of course, we will have strived to make sure that in terms of basic services, we are at 100%. However, we can proudly say that in terms of your water, we are more than 90%. In terms of your electricity, we are more than 90%. And where we are seated here now, we're able to deal with the issue of illiteracy, where majority of our people, now they are talking about a new problem, which is we have got more graduate, meaning that is a good story for the ANC, because we have done well in terms of making sure that a child of from the disadvantaged families, farm workers and domestic workers are able to go to school, because we believe that any child deserves proper education. So as an ANC, we just feel that we should have done it earlier, but we are on the right track because we have made sure that we are able to give basic services to our province, to our people in the province.
Sasikani, you still have 30 seconds on the clock.
Oh, and also, we are going to make sure that, you know, our slogan now, we are saying that together we are going to grow South Africa. And our focus is making sure that we grow our economy. You can see our president is all over looking for investors so that we can deal with the triple challenges that we are facing in our countries of unemployment, inequality, and poverty. But you must be rest assured that as an ANC, our people tells us that we are going in the right direction and we are happy about your performance, but tell us what is it that we can do more.
Colin Sidibe, you know the rules. You start off with the positives of the governing party in the province, and then you can move forward to the rest of your opening statement. 90 seconds on the clock. Let's start now.
Yeah, thank you very much. The unfortunate part is that we have put me in the middle of criminals on my right and racists on my left, which are the two problems that we are facing in Mpumalanga. The ANC government is very corrupt here in Mpumalanga. That is why there are a lot of service delivery protests every day. I don't think there's any province that have such a lot of service delivery protests like Mpumalanga. And the other challenge that we are facing is that of racism, more especially in the area of Mkondo in Hertsibande, because that area is an agricultural area. So it is very rife, and the DA is quite about that. So I'm seated with trouble. I'll have to go a very serious cleansing ceremony after here. But the point, we, as the EFF, we have achieved a lot since we arrived at the legislature. As we speak, there will be 2 schools built in Nelspruit and White River, additional schools, because since the ANC came into government, they never built any schools here. They failed to analyze population growth until the EFF arrived at the legislature, and we closed the schools and forced them to admit all the schools, because the town or the city is growing of population, because Nelspruit is a capital. So that's the achievement of the EFF. They know it's us who pushed that in the legislature. In the province we have...
That's your time.
Yeah, in the province we have... when we
I
arrived...
have to cut you off there because that is your 90 seconds.
Say
90
again?
seconds over.
It's over.
Oh, so we're going to be very strict when it comes to time, and let's move on. Did you find it very difficult to talk about positives in the province?
Yes. There are many. You see, there are
Let's leave it
almost...
for the next segment since your 90 seconds are over. I want to be fair to all of the political parties here.
All right.
Let's move on to the Democratic Alliance. Jane Sithole, you're the premier candidate in the province. Start off with the positives of the governing party in your province, in the country. Move forward to the rest of your opening statement. 90 seconds starts now.
Thank you very much and good evening to the viewers at home. If you look at Mpumalanga, Mpumalanga is a very beautiful province. If you have been driving around Mpumalanga, you will realize that it is beautiful. However, that beauty has been destroyed by corruption for the last 25 years. So all the gains that we have made as a nation, as a province, have been written off by what has been going on in this province. If you look at the corruption that has robbed the tourism industry, you look at the corruption that has robbed the service delivery, you look at the corruption that has robbed us of schools, that has robbed us of hospitals, you realize how much damage has been caused in the last 25 years. What we are saying is, for as long as we do not put people who are corrupt in jail, we will not be able to deal with corruption. They need to be arrested and they need to be put in jail. For as long as the police service is still a national competency, we will not be able to deal with crime that has destroyed tourism in this province. You take the police service, you bring it down to the people, make it a provincial mandate, make sure that we can hold them accountable. Then you'll be able to deal with the tourism industry, which will create jobs. Without jobs, people's dignity has been taken away. The Mpumalanga unemployment rate is at the highest of them all, particularly amongst the youth. They are unemployed.
Jane,
They
that's
are
your 90
jobless.
seconds.
And
90 seconds done. Last but certainly not least, from the Better Residents Association, Joe Ndlovu, the rules are you start off with something positive to say about governance in your province before going to the rest of your opening statement. 90 seconds starts now.
Thank you, thank you. There is nothing positive from the government of the ANC right now in Mpumalanga, because we cannot talk about the positive things while the people of Mpumalanga are still suffering from the services, especially the primary services like water. Unemployment is still something that is hitting the people of Mpumalanga. So then, as the Better Residents Association, we are here as the government in waiting to come and improve the life of Mpumalanga. So then, as we are here, we are arguing to the people of Mpumalanga that as Better Residents Association, we will make sure that Mpumalanga becomes the very much improved province, because it's very much rich with minerals, but out of those minerals, the people of Mpumalanga are not benefiting. And Mpumalanga is very much rich in agriculture. When you can check, people of Mpumalanga are not benefiting out of those products from the agricultural sector. So then we want to make sure that the people of Mpumalanga must vote for the better life, and only to vote for Better Residents Association, it will be the right thing to do from the people of Mpumalanga.
Joe, you still have 15 seconds on the clock if you want to take advantage of that time.
So, as Better Residents Association, we are going to change the life of Mpumalanga. So then we will make sure that the infrastructure like water and roads will be fixed at the province.
All right, thanks very much. And thank you to our panelists for their opening statements. Just a reminder to our audience gathered here today, we love your energy. We want to just ask you to give each other a chance to talk and to be heard very clearly for the sake of all of us and for the sake of a good discussion and a good debate. Let's get straight into some questions now. As the government in the province, I want to ask the ANC how you're asking the people of Mpumalanga to put their trust in you when since 2017, with David Mabuza being elected as Deputy President of the ANC, Deputy President of the country, you've still not been able to convene a successful PGC. There have been 4 failed PGCs. How, when you can't get your ducks in a row internally, can you manage the province?
The issue of the ANC in Mpumalanga, be rest assured, we are fine. We are dealing with our challenges as an organization. And you can't bring the issue of the PGC as a challenge because it's us as the ANC. No one forced us outside the African National Congress. It's us who said we are not going to go to the Provincial General Council. Therefore, it can't be an issue when an organization dealing with its own processes have said, let's put aside the Provincial General Council and focus on election, because to us, as the ANC, elections are more important than the PGC. As we are speaking, we are done with all our processes in the organization, and we are focusing on the election. We are focusing on making sure that we are telling a good story in terms of what we have done in this province. So in terms of the ANC, we don't have those challenges to an extent where you will provided to manifesto of the ANC is unlike any other manifesto of other political parties. We consult with our people, they've inputted in the manifesto, that's what they want us to continue doing. Come the 9th of May, the ANC will be in charge of Mbombela, and the ANC will be in charge.
In the studio audience here, in our audience here in the auditorium, I think now would be a good time to start lining up some of our guests. I get the sense that there are some people who want to ask our panelists some pressing questions, and perhaps we should start giving them a chance to do that. I want to perhaps go to an open question to our panel and talk about the budgets of the province in Mpumalanga. So 68% of your budgets in this province goes to education and it goes to health. And yet the main challenges in the province are linked also to education and to health. Who would like to take the question? You can go.
It is true. If you look at the education and the health, they are the most mismanaged departments in this province. Yes, yet they get the bigger chunk of the budget of the province. You look at education, she mentioned that they're taking early childhood development seriously. They have cut the budget for early childhood development by 700 million. How do you cut the budget for the foundation and say you are taking it seriously? You look at the health department. The health department has collapsed. Yet they are getting the majority of the budget. You look at our hospitals, you look at our clinics, they are falling apart. You look at the employment of our professionals. There's no doctors, there's no nurses. Yet they are taking the biggest budget. So now you ask yourself, you look at their irregular and fruitless expenditure in those departments. It is suffering purely because of corruption. When you mismanage the people's money, you will not be able to deliver services. If you look at the issue of school sanitation, look now, there are children that are still using pit toilets in this province, yet the Department of Education is getting the biggest budget. There are children that are falling in pit toilets in Nkomazi, yet the Department of Education is taking the bigger chunk of the budget. There are children that go to hospital, there's no medication. Right now, the health department has just written off medication of 1.1 million that is expired. How does medication expire when people need medication? Why do you leave medication to expire when people are so sick? And this is vital medication that people need. Hence, it is sitting in a room somewhere where they leave it to expire. So now, these two departments have been mismanaged. There's a lot of corruption. There's money that goes out that they cannot account for.
Jane, I think let's give Sasikami a chance to respond to that.
Thank you very much. You know, most of the people, it's very fashionable to talk about corruption. But at no point did any person go and say the corruption is happening in this department and this is the evidence that I've got and I'm going to report corruption. You can't sing corruption. You must go and report corruption. He's talking about the issue of education having more budget. It's only in Mpumalanga where we managed to make sure that we close farm school by building state-of-the-art boarding school for those farm learners so that they are able to get good quality education. As I'm speaking right now, the Department of Education have set aside 373 million to make sure that they deal with the issue of sanitation. In fact, in the province, if you look at all our schools, we do have our basic services be it your water, electricity, and of course, we are dealing with the issue of infrastructure. You must understand that there are a lot of backlog, but as the ANC, we have done so many state-of-the-art schools that you will not even dream of having in your farm school, because Mpumalanga is a rural province. You talk about the Department of Health, you talk about medication. The reason why you will find medication maybe sometimes expired is because, as we are speaking in terms of life expectancy, we have increased, meaning that our people are taking care of themselves, our people are living a healthy lifestyle, but that does not mean that people are not getting quality medication. We are providing medication in all our facilities.
Chasekane, let's give the other smaller parties a chance to butt in here. I see that you've got a point to add.
We are going to correct the imbalance that's happening within our basic education system, because our education system is producing graduates that cannot be absorbed by the demands in the employment sector. We are going to fix the teacher and learner ratio. At the moment,
let's touch on this issue that you've just mentioned. Sorting out the issue of absorbing graduates into the employment sector. So that's a bold statement to make.
Yes.
How do you plan to act on it?
we have looked into the prisons' daily subsistence. Prisons are, the country at the moment is spending 350 a day per prisoner. When you look at the grant system, that's 400 a month. We are going to cut down on the prison daily subsistence, and we are also going to make sure that we take the money that has been spent. Prisoners at the moment are living in luxury. They are getting free education, and yet an ordinary young South African is not able to get that, is not even enabled, and they don't even have that privilege. So we are going to look carefully where there are gaps, and especially policies that are not aimed at empowering young women. The young woman who is unemployed at the moment, largely they're unemployed because they do not have basic matric. And this province is a young province with 4 million population. The majority are young women who are out of unemployment. To fix that, we are going to make sure that we take some of the curriculum from the TB colleges, from technical colleges. We take that curriculum to make sure that when students graduate at the end of the day, they have some kind of basic skill, that they don't just graduate and spend so many years without employment, without a technical skill that will even give them a basic employment.
Lindy Wekoza, we're going to come back to you in a minute. And the EFF, the BRA, I haven't forgotten about you, but I do want to throw it forward to my colleague Alden St-Pierre and try and gauge, Alden, whether you've got anyone lined up to throw some pointed questions to our panelists.
Okay, I'm going to ask Ubab Xolani to quickly give us his sentiments. He has an issue that he wants to raise around cadre deployment.
Good evening, everyone. The question that I want to pose is to the spokesperson of the ANC. In your articulation, you spoke about your manifesto. You said, you are saying, let's grow South Africa together. But then after elections, when people have already voted, you then speak about your cadre deployment. What is it that we must do to grow this economy with you? Because after that, there's nothing that we're going to do. Isn't that not a controversial statement that you're saying?
Okay, another question is from Vusi. Vusi, you can stand up. Okay, you can come and join me over on this side. Okay, Vusi, you want to raise an issue around infrastructure? Remember we had a discussion earlier on?
Yes, thank you very much. Now that I must ask, I want to ask the EFF, what plan do they have to reconstruct the infrastructure they are damaging during public protest?
Give us an example. Give us an example. Give us an example of where the infrastructure was damaged.
We know now that everywhere they go, they damage properties, they burn down clinics and schools. So they must tell the public if they are going to reconstruct those things.
Give us an example. Give us an example. Say this particular place, this is where the EFF damaged infrastructure during a protest or whatever.
Yes, I reside at Umchindi, for example. Some of the members who burnt down a youth center are here from the EFF. They burnt down a youth center, they burnt down a police station. They are here. I can name them if you want. They are here.
Okay, Michelle, let's see what they have to say and whether the EFF can respond to this allegation.
Yeah, I think let's bring the EFF. You heard the question. Perhaps just, we've got about 2.5 minutes left before we go to break, but let's hear your answer to that.
Well, that is a planted lie. That guy from Swaziland, I know him long ago, is trying to get corpulence and recognition through the EFF. The EFF does not protest. It's the communities who are engaged in the protest. We face the ANC directly in the municipalities, in the council, in the legislature when there are issues. So it's just trying to justify their failure to deliver services to the people, because the people are not through EFF. And it's because he is aware that the communities are rejecting them. Everywhere we go now, they don't want to see them anymore, especially him from Chindini. That is why he's trying to make a justification to his bosses that he must get a pardon after the election, but will punish them. Look, my colleague here is saying that the education system, the health system is fine. I like your question about the health budget and so forth. The reality is that the two departments share the significant budget, correct. But look at the Department of Education. As we speak, since the school reopening, there have been no school nutrition provision in the schools of Hazelview and Tsigas. Till today, it's 3 months now, because they can't pay service provider. You go to Mapulane hospitals, there's no water there. Visitors who visit their patients are forced to bring 5 liters of water so that the patients can bath there. In the hospital, the mortuaries are not working. Doctors are complaining that the theaters are very hot, they cannot do the operation very well. As a result, it affects people. We have been advising them as we arrived in legislature. There are no orthopedic surgeons. People are cut off their hands and their legs when they get accident because they don't have a plan. The only thing they know is to steal, because in the Department of Health, what they know is to do the pharmaceutical supplies. They've got those tenders there, and they divert the money to the tenders of their brothers. But worse, our people are dying in the casualty, in the benches of the casualty. Our mothers are giving birth in the ambulances and benches. There's nothing that, with the budget that they approve here in of billions, and there are a lot of irregular and unauthorized expenditure. He's saying we must report corruption. We report corruption. She's saying so confidently because she knows that they manage the police, especially the hawks. They bribe the hawks all the time. 4 of the HOTs are gone, including the HOT for education and agriculture. The former municipal manager of Mbombela and the CFO are gone through the EFF. Many more are on the line because, yes.
Colin Sidibe from the EFF, thank you for your answer. When we come back, we're going to speak to the ANC, Sasekane Manzile. There was a question there put to you from our audience here around this good story to tell, or rather growing South Africa together. Once May 8th comes and those election results come out, what happens then in terms of cadre deployment? You've got a few moments to think about that. Don't go away. You're live in Mbombela Stadium. This is eNCA's 6th election town hall. Welcome back. You're live with us here in Mbombela Stadium for eNCA's penultimate election town hall, and it's already been hotting up. This is the second segment of our town hall debate. As you can see, lots of opportunities to take photos, but let's get straight back to our debate. Sasikani Manzini, there was a question from our audience around cadre deployment. The ANC is asking voters to trust them, to grow South Africa together. But what happens after the 8th of May?
After, because our people have already participated in the manifesto of the ANC, what we do, like anyone knows, we do public participation in terms of how then are we going to implement our manifesto as agreed. So our people are always participating in those public meetings. So even the issue of cadre deployment, if it was cadre deployment, it means we are going to take from the ANC and deploy people in government. But there's always advert. And there are always requirements. So people, as long as they're South African, with all the required qualification that we always put in our advert, you are allowed to apply, and people are being employed every day. And over and above that, we have put unions a part of our interviews to monitor that there is transparency. And where we are seated, all unions, UB or PSA, whatever union, they participate in our interview and they sign that all our interview processes are free and fair. So there's nothing such as cadre deployment and people are unable to
All right,
participate.
so let's talk about your position. You're provincial spokesperson for the ANC. You're also health MEC in the province. And we know that our health MECs around the country, they have a particular set of skills. They have health qualifications. What qualifies you for this position of health MEC?
I also think you know that political head are policy makers. So you can't expect, or maybe you're confusing a political head in terms of executive authority with an accounting officer in the form of an HOD. Of course, HOD, you need a relevant qualification in terms of the particular department and expertise. But in terms of MECs, we deal with policies, we deal with executive matters, and we make sure that the department is run in the proper manner.
Are you saying you don't have a health qualification? Are you saying you don't have a health qualification, and you're saying you don't need one?
I don't have health qualification, but I can tell you, I know everything about the Department of Health. With the 5 months that I've been in the Department of Health, I know everything. I'm able to run my executive authority in that department.
All right, I want to talk about the health department in particular. You've been in the position for a few months, you say.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Auditor General's report now. 7 government departments we know in this province have claims against them that exceeded their 2018-2019 budget. The health department alone claims against the health department for 7.9 billion rand for the next 3 years. That's according to numbers from the Auditor General's report.
Can you repeat the question?
7.9 billion rands worth of claims for the health department alone.
Yes.
That's money that could be used for service delivery that will now be diverted.
In terms of litigation, I can say that we had a meeting with the minister, and we have also we acknowledged that there are people, in fact, nowadays it's like a scam where lawyers are now going around facilities and looking for people that were admitted, and then they are now claiming for in the department. Of course, it's a concern for us as a department. Hence, we've agreed. As I'm speaking, the minister has appointed people that are going to assist in terms of all the cases, because the cases that they're claiming for are not necessarily cases for this financial year. In terms of the system, we have put system in place. In fact, I went to an extent where I said to HOD, I want to know where are these claims coming from, each facility, who was responsible, so that we're able to track in terms of where these claims are coming from. But the minister also is assisting all the provinces in terms of making sure that the people that have been appointed will be dealing with all the cases. And we are even saying that in terms of the claim itself, they even claim for medical, they claim for 50 years and all that. So we are in a discussion to say, what is it that we need to do to make sure that moving forward, based on what we are doing currently, we are closing the gap. We are making sure there are no casualties. We are making sure that our people, even our staff, are aware that now, if there's anyone that's going to claim in the hospital, they will be held liable. Because currently, they might not care because they know that government is going to pay.
All right,
But
let's move the discussion on now. We're talking health and education. And Aldrin, I know you have a principal of one refurbished school with you. Before we get to you, Aldrin, you're ready, the lights are on you. But before we get to you, I want to bring in the Best Residents Association. We've not heard from you, sir, during this debate as yet. 1% were your election results in 2014. When it comes to health, when it comes to education, what does the BRA think about the status quo in Mpumalanga?
No, thank you. Firstly, I would like to go back to that issue of health. It's a very shame, because under Department of Health, the people in Bushbuck region, they are living under the condition whereby the clinics and the hospitals are no doctors. Even now, as I'm speaking, there is no ambulances which can assist our patient. So when they talk about delivering services under the Department of Health, it's a true liar from the government of the ANC. And then coming back to the issue of Bushbuck Ridge Hospital, Mapulaneng Hospital, is now being about 2 years. That hospital is in construction. But at the moment, their report, they said it's about 70% to completion, while they are still on the earth level. So under health, no, they must rectify themselves. They didn't do nothing. So we as Better Resident Association, we know that the issue of health is very much important, and it will be our first priority to our people. We'll make sure that our people access their health services very easily so. Because for now, when you can check at the rural areas, people that are walking over 5 kilometers to access a mere access of primary health care. So then we'll make sure that we bring all the health services closer to the people. So rather than to walk more than 10 kilometers to access the health services. So there are other places whereby they are still using the old facilities, whereby it's about to collapse. So we'll make sure that we build the health infrastructure whereby our people will get services. Thanks.
So Aldrin, I mean, we can see clearly that some of the major issues in this province, we can speak to other provinces as well. Health is right up there on the agenda, proper sanitation, and education as well. We've been told 5 new or refurbished schools launched in the province just over the past 2 months.
Well, certainly education is one of those topical issues, and when you go from province to province, that's one of the cases that has been raised by the electorate. But right now I want to bring in a principal of Mbombela secondary school, who is, sorry, primary school, my apologies, Principal Nkabinde, who's going to tell us about, firstly, about the state of the education as well as the refurbishment of the school.
Yeah, thank you, Aldrin. I work at Mbombela Primary School. And Mbombela, though beautiful, I mean the area, because it's in the Lowveld, but it is faced with abject poverty. Yet in that desolate place called Mbombela, there's a wonderful school, Mbombela Primary School. It houses 852 beautiful learners. We have grown from 2015 when I started, we had 410 learners. We had 410 learners. Now we have 852. Now what is interesting about Mbombela is that there used to be buses that were taking the children out of Mbombela to Hillsview. There are 2 schools there, there's Lualeng and I am principal, and Hillsview. Now the 2 buses have shrunk into 2 combis. Why? Because we are able to give our children, our learners, what we what Lualeng and Hillsview are giving. Last year, it's a fact. We scored as Mkobaneni in a deep rural area a 93% pass rate. And that in my book is service delivery. Those kids are like any other kid in a rural area. They are faced with poverty. We are a no-fee paying school. But what is key and critical is what we are doing as a staff of Mkobanen. To crown it all, we are partnered by 3 external partners. The Click Foundation that has supplied us with computers to furnish our computer center. And that assists our grade R, our grade 1s, and our grade 2. EGRS2 from West University has also partnered with us. We are in the 3rd year. They are in grade 3 now. What they are taking, what they were chasing in town, the English is with us now at Mkobanen. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Well, Michelle, what you have there is certainly a good story to tell. But quite importantly, what the principal also raises is this, the public-private participation and how important it is for even private companies to participate in ensuring that learners have an environment where they feel is conducive for learning and teaching.
Yeah, absolutely, Eldon. And in fact, we've been playing the visuals of your school, sir, for our viewers at home to see. And it's just pictures of little children in classes that are kitted out with computers, in schools that have proper toilets, proper flushing toilets, proper sanitation. They've got a library, they've got a CCTV system for the security of the children. Some of the pictures being up on the screen now, and for our audience's sake, they can also see it. I mean, these are the basics that our children need. A place where they can learn in comfort, in safety, where they can go to the bathroom without a threat to their lives.
Yeah. At the moment, the learner ratio, teacher-learner ratio in schools, it's 1 teacher to 50 learners. We want to reduce that to 30. But the biggest problem is the sanitation infrastructure. It's a mess in schools. And our priority is to make sure that we have a proper sewerage management system. We know right now that our government is running this country with a water management plan on a 2017 draft document. And we are saying that we've got an answer to that. We've got proper infrastructure that we're going to make sure that no learner would be able to be put to shame to have to be on their periods and there's no flushing toilets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're also going to prioritize e-learning in schools. And we're also going to make sure that no children goes to school hungry. And this really paints a picture of a government that is not led by feminist women. And this is why we're saying if you put a woman in leadership, you will get different results. Women are the ones that carry the most burden. Women are the ones that know what it is like to walk their child to school without even having transport, to have to walk kilometers. Women are the ones that understand the social challenges in the country, and we are saying if you put women in leadership, you'll get different results.
Let's move on to the ANC now and talk about this issue that you've just raised, the issue of pit latrines. 127 schools still use pit latrines in your province.
That's why I've said in my opening remarks that the department has put over 300 million to deal with proper sanitation.
So give us a deadline. Give us a deadline for when our children don't need to use pit latrines ever again.
This budget that we've put aside will make sure that our children don't use pit latrine in the province. And
By
also,
when? By
and
when?
also,
Ms. Manzini, we're asking you for deadlines.
we are always putting budget, and for this financial year also, we've allocated more than 300 million to deal with pit latrine. And also, maybe to respond on what Debra is saying in terms of Mapulaning. You know, it's very important for you to know things before you speak. He's talking about the budget of Mapulaning. In Mapulaning, the people of Bushbuckridge should be happy because we are building a new hospital. And that new hospital is the state-of-the-art hospital, and the budget that is referring to, it was the budget for the phase.
Ms. Manzini, I'm going to stop you there, okay? Let's start with the issue of pit latrines. You're talking about 300 million rand that
More
has
than
been
300
budgeted.
million put aside.
All right, more than 300 million rand.
Yes.
What does that relate to in terms of the number of toilets that can be built? And I've asked you several times now for a deadline. When do we eradicate pit latrines?
Like I'm saying, this is a process. And for this financial year, this is the amount that we have put aside. Each and every financial year, we are allocating budget to make sure that we deal with the pit latrine in our...
300 million rand, you're saying that's for this year's budget to deal with pit latrines?
Yes, that
And
we
you're
put
saying
aside.
that cannot deal with 127 schools?
Cannot deal with?
That cannot eradicate pit latrines in 127 schools.
This allocation is to eradicate the pit latrine in our school, in the remaining school that are there in the province.
So you're saying at the end of this financial year, you will have eradicated pit latrines?
Yes, in the school that we have allocated for this financial year.
And how many schools are those? How many toilets are those?
Sorry?
How many schools are those? How many toilets are those?
I don't have figures of how many toilets are there, but this budget is put aside to make sure that we eradicate the pit latrine in our provinces.
All right, I want to move on to the issue of health in just a second. I also want to talk to the EFF about their proposal, Aldrin, that we open up our borders and what the health minister has to say about the kind of pressure that would put on our already pressurized health system. But let's take it back to the floor for questions from you.
Well, back to the floor, and we're still going to continue with the theme around education, but very importantly, it is what happens after the education, after the people have graduated, because this has been an issue that was raised even during our debate in Polokwane, where graduates were saying, hard happens to us after we have graduated. And that's one of those concerns that will be raised here by Unokwane.
My question is based on, I'll be speaking directly to speaker number 2 of the ruling party. My question is that what do we do as postgrads after graduation? Because what really happened to us is that you, as the ruling party, will release more internship. And internship, you state in your advertisement that those internships are meant to last for 12 months. Then after 12 months, it's done with us. No job, no what after the 12 months. And then you also mentioned in that internship advertisement that you also not allow us to reapply again, which means no employment, nothing. But then you are saying you are still building. You are still building more schools. Do you understand? What's the use of building more schools? And people at the end of the day, they are not educated, they are not getting their jobs. The only jobs that you give us is EPWP. That seems to work for you guys. Thank you.
And the thing about the EPW is that under the minimum wage law, the EPW is exempted from giving a minimum wage. Mandy has a question that she wants to ask, which relates to infrastructure.
All right. Mina bengicabanga ukuthi le corruption la e South Africa iyophela nini? Because ilokhu busy yaqhubeka and solo sithi yaphela but solo ayipheli. So ngifuna ukubuza lokho ukuthi why isinganiki lamanye amaphathi i-chance ukuthi aphathe sitobona ukuthi alikho intshintsho yini lonto wendeka la e-South Africa because kulokhu busy ma-RDP no i-RDP la bayithola ngokulala uyabona.
Okay, sorry guys. Remember earlier on we said when there's a speaker, let's respect each other. Now she wants to speak, let's respect her and let's listen to what she has to say. Stop howling her. Let's listen to what she has to say.
All right. Ngicala phansi futhi. Ngithi mina le corruption la e-South Africa. Ngikubuza ukuthi iyophela nini? Because solo silokhu busy sithi iyaphela but ayipheli. Siyabeketelela sithi mhlambe one day kutotshintsha but still akutshintshi nesi. Solo silokhu busy. Akunamsebenzi number 1. Number 2 ma-DP labanye bawathola ngokulala. Number 3 baqasha ihlobo tabo asiqashe ekuthini.
Wait, uyazelapha lento leyo ukuthi khona abantu abathola ama-RDP ngokulala. Wait, whoa guys, whoa.
Alright, mina talking from experience now guys, ningalothi ukhuluma ngendlela engiyathi ukuthi besilokhu sibizana ama-toilet, bathi nangabe ufuna i-toilet.
Sorry, stop it man, stop it.
Ma ufuna i-toilet lamahala, nginamalini, lo munye ongitshela ukuthi nginike imali engaka, into yena ukuthi lo nakho ibe fast. Yabona? And ngifuna ukubona ukuthi where is the DA's position in the land and property?
Wait. Ubani ofuna ukulala now? Wait, ubani ofuna ukulala now?
I won't mention any names. And again, I'm going to come here, but corruption. So now.
Okay, I'm gonna stop her there. But in a nutshell, Michelle, it is sex for houses, sex for toilets. That's the allegation that she's raising over here. But she doesn't want to say who those people are.
I mean, is this something that the Democratic Alliance itself would like to respond to, given that it's one of your members?
Yeah, thank you very much. As we speak, tomorrow we'll be going to the Nelspruit police station with 2 ladies, Zodwa and Tendeka, because sex was solicited from them by a supervisor who promised them jobs. It's called sex for jobs. Charges were laid and the case was bungled. I just want to remind my honorable MEC here that it is the DA that opened the case against the former MEC for Health. It is because of the DA that today she's the MEC for Health, because they had to remove the previous one who was corrupt. And on top of that, she has admitted that she knows nothing about health. So now you understand why the sex for job scandal took place at Rob Ferreira Hospital. At Rob Ferreira Hospital, now the perpetrator is being protected and the victims are being victimized with evidence of SMSs where they are victimized. People ask sex from women to get a job in this province. People ask money to get a job in this province, and there's evidence of that. So that is why it's now tomorrow going to the police station.
Ms. Manzini, these are serious allegations. What is your response?
In terms of people that are saying that they have to sleep with other people for them to get a job, this is something that as an ANC we condemn. That's why we are always saying if there's any person that was requested by any person, especially maybe in government, because she was not specific whether it's in government or it's in private sector, we always encourage our people to say they must go and report, because such cases, as a government, as the ANC, you will not know, because these things happen behind closed doors. But if we find such people doing that in government, we will not waste any time, but we'll make sure that those people are expelled in the department. So we will want to request them to report such things. She said that there are so many graduates that are unemployed. You know, now in the ANC-led government, we are talking about unemployed graduates, meaning that there's a good story to tell in terms of the good thing that the ANC has done, making sure that our people have got access to education. Because before we were talking about illiterate people who can't read and write. Now we are talking about people that the ANC-led government has made sure that they go to school. Here in Mpumalanga, you know that we are a mining province. There are private sector also that must make sure that after you've got your internship, in terms of your experience in your relevant qualification, you will be able to be absorbed also in the private sector. But also, as a province, we are encouraging that you can't rely on everyone else to be employed. Hence, we are making sure that SMME cooperatives in our province are supported by the very same provincial government. In fact, we went further of making sure that we are using our own buying power. Here in Mpumalanga, the school that we are building, we can give you figures in terms of the budget that we've used to buy from our own small business so that they can also assist in creating jobs. As we are speaking, the nutrition program that we are talking about in Mpumalanga, we are buying from our small farmers because as in Mpumalanga, we are able to plow and our small businesses are supported by us. And also youth, as I'm speaking, is this ANC-led government in Mpumalanga who have given our young people in the form of Fortune 40 to be able to go and plow and sell back to the very same government to able to feed our people in the province.
Ms. Manzini, let's move on now. Aldrin, I think we've got about 2 minutes left before this segment ends. Perhaps we've got time to take a couple of questions and we'll get the answers when we come back.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is that we're going to take a couple of comments, and probably does include a question from political parties that are not represented on the panel, and one of those political parties, new on the ballot paper, is the ATM.
Yes, I am. We are as African Transformation Movement. In fact, we are just not in the ballot paper, but we are number one in the ballot paper.
You are number one where?
Number one in the ballot paper. We must really, show our, indicate our dissatisfaction with regard to the arrangement made by eNCA today, in that, certain political parties are being belittled in a sense that will have to be afforded a very minimal opportunity for us to present our movement to the society, because we understand this is a national television.
Actually, just to correct you, your movement actually had an opportunity in Polokwane, but they decided not to show up.
Polokwane, yes, I understand, but we are in Mpumalanga now.
But your movement did get an opportunity, but they decided not to show up. So what's your comment?
Our comment is as follows. We want to indicate that transformation is required in our society in general. There is no society in the country or any person in the country who is happy about the manner in which the country's attitude is all about. The country is characterized by outcries now and again. People are stopping, work at work. There's work stoppages. There are uprisings every morning, every time, and that needs an intervention for us to come and transform the minds of both the leaders and the society in general. So what we are commenting on as African Transformation Movement is that even if you do not see any alternative, the star is shining. Peace in our lifetime.
The star is shining, Michelle, and the star is right on top of the ballot paper as is indicated, and indeed the ATM is right there on top, but whether they will be on top after May the 8th is something that we'll have to wait and see. Let's go to a quick ad break.
of our election town hall debate. What's been top of the agenda over the past hour? It's been health, it's been education, but Aldrin St. Pierre, we've yet to get to issues of open borders, of land, climate change, and of course mining as well.
Well, certainly, and I guess the political parties that I have behind me, small political parties, but I believe that they have some comments relating to the mining issue, and the PAC, I'm sure would have a comment around the land issue as well.
Yeah, thanks, and good evening to the viewers and the audience here. As the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, the first thing that we want to comment on, specifically on the land, is that all the parties that are participating in the election in 2019 have finally come to the realization that the PAC has always been correct, that the land...
Not the DA. The DA doesn't agree with you.
No, let me explain. The DA also agrees. The only difference is that the DA agrees in the sense that the land should remain with the whites, which is wrong. We are saying the land belongs to the African people. And when we talk about the land, we are not talking about agricultural land only. We also talk about the mineral resources. In Mpumalanga, the mines are currently not being owned by the African people. The African people actually are victims of forced removals out of the areas where the minings are taking place. And we are saying as the PAC, there should be redress. Firstly, the kind of redress must start with the mining houses starting to pay more taxes so that they build a better Mpumalanga. But secondly, the ownership of shares for those who are working in the mines already should be extended to the workers. It should not be a select few who are owning the shares. But lastly, very importantly, we are saying as the PAC that in terms of the land, we need to come to a stage where we stop this two nations approach, where the African people are based in the ghettos and the whites are staying in the suburbs. It needs to be a situation where the African people do not stay in the suburbs because they have money, they stay there because it's their country.
Well, the ANC has been saying that they're trying to deal with this issue of apartheid spatial planning, but we are still dealing with that issue that has not been dealt with, sir. From the African Convent Steward, just quickly tell us about how do you deal with this issue around the spatial planning, the apartheid spatial planning, and also the issue around mines.
Thank you. So with regards to the mines, we need to take control of the mines as a government. ACO is the organization that seeks to usher in a government that is based on the will of God. I'm not ashamed, I'm a child of God. I'm a born-again child of God, I'm not ashamed of that. Those minerals were deposited by God for the benefit of human race. We must understand that we need to share those minerals so that we are able to fund the programs that need funding.
So, sorry, just for clarity, are you saying that the government should own those mines?
Of course, yes. Like for an example, I'll give you a practical example. Dubai is one of the leading tourist destination of choice. Because why? They utilize the proceeds of oil to develop the desert to become one of the leading tourist destination of choice. So we can do likewise ourselves with regards to mine. We can fund those programs so that we become one of the most powerful country in Africa. Okay. I thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Stuart. And the last one is from the Residents Association of South Africa, the issue around mines. Do you think that the government would have the capacity to even run mines, considering some of the corruption allegations against the government?
We think with proper planning we might be able to run the mines. What we have as a concept and that we agreed on is the concept of youth in mining and women in mining, which we think if properly implemented, it will also make the youth to benefit within the mining industry and also women in particular to be beneficiaries in most of the mines.
Is nationalization an option, nationalization of the mines?
Not at this time. You can't say you want to nationalize. You need to undertake some processes before you can say we nationalize. Because of the arrangement that we have at the current and are also influenced by your apartheid spatial pattern and economic patterns. So you can't say tomorrow you say you want to say nationalize everything. You still need processes to set processes for you to empower all the inhabitants and especially the youth and women. And thereafter you can say you are ready to nationalize.
Well, thank you so much. Well, there you have some of the comments coming from the smaller parties that are also participating in these elections, 28 political parties that are registered.
So let's discuss this issue around mining, Alden. We want to get as many of our final issues in this final segment as possible. But let's talk mining. 25% of the province's employment comes through mining, and yet we're seeing massive mine disasters. There are issues around mine safety. Let me ask the smaller parties, and perhaps start with you, the EFF, around the will to address the issues and the challenges in this very important sector in the country.
Well, the ANC has failed dismally in the area of mining, precisely because they are involved as shareholders in those mines. There is currently an issue of Lily Mine, just 30 kilometers around here, where 3 miners are still trapped 3 years down the line. And they can't do anything about that. Instead, even the 1,000 people who were employed there have lost their job. And there's a process where there were new buyers of the mine. And they got funding and everything,
So
but they can't.
let's talk solutions. Let's talk solutions at this point. What are the solutions?
What is what?
What are some of the solutions?
The solution is that the mines should be opened. The TMR under Kwede Mantashe is very useless. It's not biting. They are not getting involved. If they get involved, they've got their friends because they have shares in the mine. I'm coming from Hendrina, Optimum Mines. People have not been paid for 8 months now. And because the ANC is useless, it can't solve a simple problem. All the mines in Mpumalanga are under business rescue practitioners. Because most of the mines, including in Telmas, they were owned by the Guptas, the friends of Jacob Zuma, Titi Mabuza and them. So there's nothing that is correct. So they've collapsed the mine and they've made our people to lose many jobs. And those mines were creating many jobs in South Africa. So we're going to have a mining revolution very soon. As I speak, the people of Liliman, they are going to have a night vision on the 30th going to 1 May. They are going to sleep over in their mine and will support them.
All right, I want to move on because we are running out of time. We want to try and shoot through some issues. I want to talk climate change, Alden, for just a moment. We've seen the effects of climate change with our northern neighbors, Zimbabwe. We've seen the effects closer to home in Durban with a storm that hit just over the past few days. And yet none of our parties are addressing climate change in their election manifestos. The DA?
But what you need to do where you govern is you need to have a disaster management plan. Although it doesn't say climate change, but you've got a disaster management plan. So that when a disaster like the one that struck in Durban strike, you are ready. There is no country or municipality that should function without that plan. Municipalities in Mpumalanga don't have that plan. When a disaster hits, then we do not know what to do. If you look at the issue of mining,
let's stick to the issue of specifically climate change.
Yes.
The DA has not addressed climate change.
Climate change, you address it in the disaster management plan. That is your disaster management plan. Climate change affect, it could come in the form of rain, it could come in the form of storm, it could come in the form
or
of
in the form of water shortages.
Exactly. That is why it's a disaster management. And that is why all DA-run municipalities have got a disaster management plan. That is how you deal with climate change. You cannot function without one. In fact, if a municipality doesn't have a disaster management plan, we'll find situations where communities are not assisted. When the disaster strike, they are not assisted because now there is no plan. And our municipalities don't have such a plan. That's how you address climate change if you want to stick there. Address it through the disaster management plan.
I want to bring in the Better Residents Association here. What is your view on the importance to address an issue like climate change? We've seen the effects of the weather on the neighboring countries around South Africa.
In terms of weather, I think it's similar, it's related with the issue of climate change, because when you can check now the climate in South Africa is no longer the same like before. I think maybe when you can count 50 years back. So because of this atmosphere, which is changing at the very same time. So the issue of weather is now changing its shape. So that is why as the government, we must have a plan to prevent this climate change.
All right, Alden, I want to move the discussion now to the issue of foreign nationals. And the EFF, if we can just move on for 1 second. The EFF, you've talked about opening the country's borders. Now, we've talked about the pressures on our healthcare system around the country, particularly in Mpumalanga. Alan Motsoaledi, the health minister, says Mpumalanga is in fact one of 2 provinces, the other is Gauteng, with massive pressures, particularly on its health system, given the influx of foreign nationals. How do you balance open borders and pressures on service delivery?
Well, as we speak, many people from Swaziland and Mozambique, they are using our health facilities there. I think Sasekane knows that. But what we are saying by opening the borders is that these borders were not created by us as Africans, but by the colonizers. And then we can't subscribe to the notion of the colonizers because they wanted to use us, to control us and steal our minerals. So the ANC must support our notion because as we speak, they have MECs and MMCs, the Swaziland from Mozambique here in Mpumalanga. So the Mozambicans, Zimbabweans and everyone are our brothers. So we must love one another as brothers, as Africans, and we must crash that thing off the borders. The only thing is that there must be border control, proper border control system, more especially to avoid crimes and all those trafficking things, human trafficking and drugs that are happening there. But as Africans, we are one. We must own our minerals. We must love one another and stop the xenophobic attacks of one another. Because if you attack a black person, as a black person, that means you hate yourself. We've got many Chinese, Italians that are here. They are not being attacked, but only our blacks are attacked, which is very wrong by our own blacks. And the ANC is silent on that. It's only the commander-in-chief who spoke up openly about xenophobic attacks in Africa. And they are not fair in this case. Worse, because I'm telling you, they've got MECs and MEC here in Mpumalanga for safety and security from Mozambique. So if they support the attacking of xenophobic attack, they say we must attack Pet. You see, they say we must attack Vosim Kacho because it's from Swaziland. So we must love one another and respect the dignity of a black person. We must coexist and live, whether we are from Cape to Karo. Africa belongs to us. So this thing was done by the colonizers.
So Alvin St-Pierre, it's trying to balance open borders versus a defense budget that's been slashed.
It's rather contradictory what the EFF is saying, because the EFF is saying open the borders, but then the EFF again is saying control the borders. Which one is it of the two? And then what we need to check as well is what is the DA saying about how do you control these borders, because the DA has also come under attack and what some have called is xenophobic sentiments. And on the other end, you do have the Department of Defense that has its budget slashed yet again, and the department is saying that they are struggling to police these borders. What's the answer from the ANC on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to the Democratic Alliance, I want to bring in women forward. You've had your hand up for quite a while.
Yes, on the issue of climate change, the challenge is the production of coal. And we need to make sure that we actually move to greener economy, and that is what our policy speaks on, because we have prioritized a clean environment in our manifesto. And in that, it's not just about moving into the greener economy, but it is bringing the question of women-owned enterprises within the mining sector, and actually really all other sectors. And we are saying with that, we are going to conduct an audit that will ensure that women own those enterprises. We are going to conduct an audit that will make sure that there is equal pay of equal value within the industry. What has actually really happened is the backlash on women's leadership, because we have a highly patriarchal government that is not taking the woman's voice serious. Choice is not permitted on women who are represented in political parties. They are there as representatives, but participation is limited. They have no choice and they have no control, and we are stepping in to making sure that the SMMEs in the country are given the biggest chunk of the budget. And we're also going to clamp down on state-owned enterprises to try and minimize political influence on our resources and minerals. And on that, I want to bring in the question of women being objectified. Sex for work and sex for contract is not going to be allowed in Women Forward. Women are going to give one another opportunities, because this, as particularly this, the mining sector, it's run by an all boys club. Men are giving themselves opportunities, and opportunities are there in the country. They just do not reach the women. And we are saying we're going to clamp down on corruption. That is our strategy. And if you want to vote for Women Forward, vote for Women Forward, because it is time for gender equality to be recognized. It is time for a feminist government, a woman-led government, and it's a fundamental human right. We cannot be objectified as women in exchange of sex, and we cannot be continue to be demeaned by the people that we actually vote in power.
All right, Lindy Wekoza, a women-centric approach to governance. I want to just bounce back to the issue of foreign nationals and the DA's policy.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm actually happy that we do agree that there should be some form of border control. What we are saying is we welcome our brothers and sisters from all over the world. We love them, but we need to protect them when they're in the country. How do you protect someone that you do not know that they are there? And also protecting the residents of our country. So there is nothing like we do not allow people to come. Actually, we are saying, bring your skills, bring your business, come and do business in South Africa. We are open for business, but there need to be management of that. We need to protect legitimate refugees. They need protection. We need to protect asylum seekers. Currently, they are being abused by the Department of Home Affairs. They need to pay bribes just for them to get documents at Home Affairs. To deal with that corruption, you need to put controls in place. And if you don't put it at the border, that's where corruption takes place. Our province is riddled with drugs. Where do they go through? They go through the borders because there is no control. You go to Emalakeni, you go to right here in Mbombela. Our youth is in the streets because of drugs that gone through our borders. We need control at the borders. That is why we are saying proper control at the borders, so that we can have a proper management of people that are in our province, and we can protect them.
All right, Jane Sitole, I think you've made your point, Jane Sitole. We're running out of time, Alden. I think we're getting to sort of less than 10 minutes. Let's get some questions from our audience.
Okay, well, here's one final question, and this is relating to coalitions.
Yeah. Ngicela kubuta be-DA kwekuthi njengaloku eNelson Mandela Bay imarriage yenu namfowethu lathi nine nilo kanjani bantu be-apartheid ni wrong ifailile naseTshwane niyosebenza niyokhona njani kulana iprovince nihlula ngomasipala Alexandra eJohannesburg nisabe kuya khona.
She can go ahead and answer that question.
Jane, can I answer? You can answer. Thank you very much. I'm actually happy for that question of Alexander. You see, when you start shaking, you start manufacturing and engineering things that will look like others can govern. The Auditor General has said over and over and over that the DA-run municipalities are the best. Just last week, the Auditor General released another report saying the Western Cape is the best-run province in the country. This is not the DA statistics. It's independent researchers, independent statistics that prove that when we govern, we run clean governments, we deliver services for everyone, we don't listen to rumors. We look to what's on paper. You quoted some Auditor General figures there. We look at what the Auditor General is saying, and the Auditor General is saying the DA is delivering. The DA is delivering for all the people of South Africa. The Auditor General has proven us right over and over and over. And if you vote for the DA, you are voting for clean governance, you're voting for services, you're voting for securing our borders, you're voting for professional and honest policing, and you're voting to stop corruption and put those that are corrupt in jail.
All right, Jane, it looks like you're making your closing statement already. I think we've gotten to that time of the evening. Aldrin, can we take any more questions from our studio, from our audience here?
Okay. Here's one question, particularly relating to this stadium that we're at.
Thank you very much. I want to check because this stadium is cursed because of Jimmy Mohlala, who was assassinated by the ANC, and nothing has been done up to so far. Ever since he was eliminated, they've been dilly-dallying. So now, I want to check what is it? How are they going to curb this thing, a corruption that is happening in Mpumalanga? Number two, we've got what we call as an EFF special economic zones in our manifesto. We've got superior logic. That is what we are bringing. We want to change the system. We are going to make it. I just want to check with my fellow EFF member here. Guti, how are we going to roll out that strategy? And for Sasekani, how is she going to deal? How is the ANC dealing with corruption in Mpumalanga? Thank you very much.
Well, over to you, Michelle.
All right, I think we've gotten to the part of the evening where our parties are going to give us their closing statements. We've had particular issues raised aimed to the ANC here, some particular issues that perhaps the EFF would like to answer to as well. But let's perhaps get to the part of the evening where we start to round up our comments for the evening. We've still got a long line of questions there behind you, but we are very quickly running out of time. I think, Ms. Manzini, your closing remarks, and let's deal with the issue of the serious allegations surrounding the construction of the stadium as well.
Yeah, as I've said, that it's very easy and cheap to always talk corruption. But we have always said, because we have got our law enforcement agencies, where if there's any allegations of any crime committed, go and report that crime. My fellow comrade here is saying the DA in Western Cape is the most well-run. Let me give you a practical example. All the 9 provinces said and agreed to give community health workers 3.5. The DA-led government refused, and they are paying them 2.2 as we are speaking. This DA is not for the poor, it's for only the rich people. So as we are saying, that everything that we are doing for our people, it speaks for itself in terms of what we have achieved. Water in the province, electricity in the province, state-of-the-art libraries and all that. And our people, as we are 12 days towards election, are saying they are waiting for the 8th of May. They are saying they are going to vote for the ANC because they've seen what the DA coalition with the EFF have done in Tshwane, in Johannesburg, and their only hope. Hence, in our last 2 by-elections, the people of Mpumalanga voted for the ANC. And the people of Mpumalanga will continue to vote for the ANC and also in the country, because they can see that it's only the African National Congress that they can point in terms of service delivery on what we've achieved.
Ms. Manzini, you need to wrap. We need to give everyone a chance. You've got about a minute or so, maybe a bit less, to give us your closing remarks.
Well, she's fooling you that the ANC is in charge. We have increased with 50% on the by-election. The ANC is leaderless in Mpumalanga. That's why she's not the chairperson. The only parties that got chairperson is us here. They took a lady from a dusty street of Marit and brought her because she can speak English. She's not leading any structure. There's no structure in the province. It's acting is Hollywood. Now, I'm very much sad. The ANC in Mpumalanga hate education. Why I'm saying that? Most of the schools that still exist in Mpumalanga were built by the churches and the communities themselves. We still have math schools in Mpumalanga. To see that they hate education, I know all these ANC people here. Most of them, they are general workers at the municipality and EPWP workers. They are running after a truck carrying waste, carrying pampers, young as they are. They don't want to go to school because the ANC has influenced them so that they can use them and manipulate them. That's why they are so reluctant and so forth. And these other ones, I know them one by one. There's business people who are here just to make money through the ANC. But to also prove that, in the legislature we're sitting with ANC and MEC's members and members of legislature who's got standard 6. Imagine, do you think those people will love education? Do you think that people will take education serious? In Mpumalanga, everything that the Bible has said, wrong said, will happen in the world.
You need to start wrapping up.
Has already happened. So, come 28 May 2019, EFF is the solution. We'll nationalize the man. Let me also correct my brother. We are going to combat crime where there were borders. We'll intensify the fight against crime. Not to say we open the borders, but we must control the crime because we must deal with crime, not our people.
All right, let's
our
give some
land
of our
and
other
our jobs
panelists.
first. Not this 800 that they get this one.
All right. Women forward, give us your closing comments. We don't have much time.
50-50 doesn't work. The zebra style doesn't work. Women need to come out from those structures where they know they're being oppressed and where they know that they're being neutralized. This is an invitation. We are saying, come from your corners. Women in the economy, women in the public life space, in political parties, come. Let us build a women-led feminist government.
PRA, very quickly, your closing comments.
No, thank you. The people of Mpumalanga, is now the time to decide. So then, let's go and take the right decision and make our life change. We must stop that thing of hiring our people through comradeship. We must stop that thing of hiring people by changing the sex. So then we must go and vote for the better life. To change our life, we must go and vote for Better Resident Association on the 8th of May. In order
the Democratic
to make
Alliance.
our life very easier and better. Thank you.
One sentence, ma'am.
Thank you very much. You vote for the DA, you are voting for clean governance according to the Auditor General. You vote for the DA, you're voting for professional
Unfortunately, we have
there will be
run out of
no
time
sex for
live here
jobs
at
in the
Mbombela
DA.
Stadium.
People who
It
are
is
corrupt will be
eNCA's
jailed,
sixth and
and that
penultimate
is why
election
you
town
must
hall.
vote for the
Unfortunately,
DA.
that
I
is
say
all we
vote
have time for.
DA.
Thank you very much for coming.